are you guys investing now? Actually, even before that. Do mothers have challenges investing? Because again, my context is different. I know you guys.
Do mothers, mothers?
Do they feel they can't invest in real
I
estate?
just think women.
everyone feels
Do they feel there's
that.
barriers to investing?
I think as parents in general, I think we kind of, yes, we're mothers, of course, but we have mothers and others. We have this parenting lens. When you're entering the world of real estate, when you have small children and you have more risks, everything seems riskier. I don't know. When I became a mother, everything was a risk. So for me, that was a barrier when we got started. But I was willing to. I was the mother that was willing to persevere.
Yeah.
My husband is a bit of a ninny, and he was saying no because he was afraid of the risk. So I don't think it's just mothers who could be risk averse. I think
it's anyone who has
too.
the risk. So we like to equate it to Shark Tank when Mark Cuban says, you should live in your car and eat craft dinner. And we're like, yeah, you can't do that with kids.
No.
So we have mouths to feed. We have mortgages
love
to
craft
pay.
They love macaroni and cheese.
But the thing is, there's a risk. And so I think there's so much fear behind investing in real estate in general. Put it with responsibilities and people who have real adult things, and you can't put your kids in jeopardy. So there's a huge fear factor. And the best thing about real estate is it doesn't have to be risky. If you know what you're doing, it's the most lucrative investment that you can have. And everyone needs active real estate in their portfolio. They need 1 to 3 properties in their portfolio, and that could even include their personal residence. One investment property will change your entire financial future. If you just grab one home in a high growth area, just pay off the mortgage for 25 years, say you're 40, buy a $375 home, just pay off the mortgage for 25 years, you're gonna have a $1.25 million property ready for your retirement at 65. And that's going up 5%. So, and we all know they're way higher, and that's why a lot of Rachel's rent-to-own people were probably like, ooh, because the property's probably tripled in value and stuff.
Yeah.
So
they're leaving some money on the table.
But they made such a great investment. So they're making between 20 to 40%.
What are your investors making?
30%.
Again, past does not predict future, folks.
That's right. Well, I can kind of speak to a recent deal that we just did, and we're seeing about 33% return on investment. So
to your investor?
No, to me.
Okay.
So I'm just going off of my numbers because with rent-to-owns, the cost of borrowing is a really pivotal component. So the lower your cost of borrowing, the better. But of course, I don't have $100,000 sitting around every time I'm doing a deal. So I'm pulling it out of my HELOC. My personal residence goes up in value. It's like a cash cow in of itself. So I pull out the $100K, put it into a $500,000 property, and that $100,000 turns into double basically. And part of it comes through cash flow. Part of it is the profit from the sale. And and I'm using the bank's money. So 33% return on investment by using my line of credit, and basically a 30-year amortization with a 2% interest rate. That's all it takes.
Yeah, leverage is huge.
Huge.
We were just talking about risks. So when when my daughter was born, I was laying awake at night, and the risk to me was, how am I going to afford this thing? Right? It's probably going to want to go to university. It's probably going to need its own house.
They're unaffordable.
So the risk to me was, how much was to pay for this?
Yeah.
And I'm lazy, so I don't want to delay my retirement. So that's why I bought her a house. Right? That would be her RESP and a down payment on a future home. Like, to me, that's a risk. Do you see this out there in the community? Do they not see what's coming?
No, they do things the traditional way because that's what they've been told. So people trade time for money. They're working at jobs that they're getting underpaid for. They try to save 10%, and they invest like the wealthy barber, and they're investing in conventional products that are maybe performing at, if you do an annualized return for the set it and forget it mutual funds, you're at 5%. You minus the Murphys, the management expense ratios, which is 2.5%, then minus inflation. The average Canadian is growing their money at 1.2%.
Put it into a GIC,
which is now even guaranteed to go broke. So they're not even growing their money. And then society is becoming more expensive, and people's wages are not growing the same way like they used to be. We have more people coming, there's more competition, and these are skilled people too, with university degrees, engineers, IT professionals. You can't afford to work. Job is just over broke no matter what you do.
And so many people I still find in today's world are working hard to pay off their mortgage on their personal residence. And, you know, every time I hear it, I have exactly the same reaction as Erwin. I giggle.
Yeah.
But they so they're trying to pay off their primary mortgage, and they look at taking on a mortgage for investment property as debt.
Yeah.
And they do not.
It's all reversed.
And I cannot, for the life of me, like I have some really smart friends, and they think that I'm crazy for having mortgage debt. I'm like, I would like to die with
so much
as
debt.
much debt as I possibly can. I'm not talking about debt on my credit cards.
Not consumer debt.
Good debt.
Not
Big
consumer
difference.
debt, but productive debt. And many of them will say they find that is the risk. They think of a mortgage as risky debt.
But then they'll go and buy a car, like, and have
Depreciating
$1,000 car payment. Or worse, they'll take $75,000 of their little pennies that they saved and buy a car. And it's like, what? So you won't buy a down payment because that's risky, but you're going to buy a car, a depreciating asset. Like, people just have it all backwards. And I think that's one of our missions here too, is really to challenge like traditional financing and like finance education and really educate these mothers and others. And they love the others part. But you know what? It is couples and parents and anyone who really has stuff to put on the line. And really just put a tailspin. Like Robert Kiyosaki's brilliant at this stuff, and they changed our life. Like his book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, it won't teach you to do real estate, but it will give you a 180 on your financial education. So now when I hear people say, oh, you should be like Rachel said it well, she's leveraging her personal residence. She has a great home. There's a lot of money sitting there. We live in an area that's very expensive. We had someone... You remember in 2017 when the markets went down because they imposed a tax on the foreign buyers? There was a big crash. There was a man who was convinced that he lost $300,000, and he was livid. And I'm like, did you sell your home? No, but I lost $300,000 because the value went down $300,000.
How much is his home?
Well, all of our homes are probably like anywhere between $1 to $3 million where we all live. Yeah. And so. Well, now it's like $1 million for a townhouse. It's ridiculous. But he was convinced that he lost, and he was an older guy, like maybe 55, probably had no mortgage, and he lost this $300,000. I'm like, until you sell, you haven't lost anything. And you also haven't made anything for all the people out there as well who have all this equity sitting in this home, because that can change. Things can happen. They can lose, like really lose that money and not have access to it in the future. Whereas most people say, I can't afford to invest in real estate. You have 1, 2, or 3 down payments sitting in your house. The riskiest thing you could do is not be educated and not do anything at all.